Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking TWAMPs. Today we will
redo
be
this.
I don't know why you make. I think it's fantastic. He's got his call thing. Yeah. It's like it's like hello. I like it.
All right, fine.
Now I have to redo it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking TWAMPs. My name is Blake Phillips, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Today we will be discussing housing at William & Mary. A little bit closer to home for this topic. For those of you who listened to the Clubs and Organizations podcast, this is sort of right up that alley. Today we'll be discussing sort of housing and what it means here at the college. But first, a couple of rounds of introductions are in order. As I said, my name is Blake Phillips, and I am a government and German major here at the college.
Do you want to do our housing experiences as well?
Oh, sure. I lived on campus my first 2 years here at the college, once in Tolliver, where we all met, and another time in the language housing, but this year I live off campus. Joe?
All right, and I am Joe. I am a IR and Russian studies major, and I have very much the same pattern of living as Blake, though I lived in the Russian house rather than the German house.
Hi, I'm William Moore. Also lived in Tolliver. Then went to Barrett Hall, the lovely Barrett Hall at William & Mary. Then I spent a semester abroad, which put me in an apartment that I rented myself. And now I'm living in Giles Hall, but in all technicality, I'm living in Chandler.
That's fantastic. My name is Ryan Walter. I am a history and geology major here at the college, and I think I probably have the largest breadth of housing experience on this campus. I lived in Tolliver my freshman year. Then I lived in the fraternity houses the first half of my sophomore year. And then I just happened to want to move out of there and, for my own reasons, of course. And then I lived in Barrett Hall, which was interesting. And then I live off campus now, and I plan to move back into an apartment in Ludwell in a triple next semester.
What we all need to remember, though, is that Ryan was the eternal president for life of Tolliver, so he's still technically
I appreciate
president.
that being... Yeah, I am. They owe so much...
Of the Toligarchy, which is a name I will remind all of our contributors remains intact.
It's a title.
And has spread across campus as a paragon of what not to do in student governance.
Funny story... we can make our podcast a bit more personal. As I was talking with someone who I had not really seen since freshman year, and I said my name was Ryan, and she was like, "Is your nickname Waltz?" And I was like, "Well, yes, it is." And she told me that there is a select group of people on this campus from Hunt Hall who still call me Big Papa Waltz in reference to my reign as as the Tolliver president, and so it is not an isolated thing, and that's a weird thing to run into.
But I still every once in a while will meet people who say, I'll say I lived in Tolliver, and they'll say, "Were you part of the Toligarchy?" And I'll have to admit to that. Yes, I was.
They hear tale of the magic man.
Yes. Right. But back to the housing situation as it stood. We have a decently varying range of experiences. People who have lived in other countries, but still technically a part of living as a student. We have two.
I did that too. Yeah.
We have people who live off campus. We have people who've lived basically all over campus. That does not mean that we represent a full breadth of the available housing options, but as far as quality goes, we've basically seen the range.
I think we represent a pretty full range. I mean, the only places we haven't really lived in are like DuPont
is the one place, yeah,
and that's just a bigger GGV, or units.
Yeah. So when we discuss these, just keep that in mind. But it's a pretty good breadth. There's been a whole slew of controversies while we've been here about housing. But the most recent ones in living memory are the inexplicable outrage over the switch between Lemon and Jefferson. I say inexplicable. That's not charitable. Then we'll get into the explanations for why. But then also the recent announcement that the Hospitality House, lovingly known as Ho House, will be closed next year in its entirety. It's
officially called One Tribe Place.
Yes, and also the fact that Ludwell went...
Landrum.
Sorry, Landrum went completely closed for basically a year and a half, despite promises that it would be closed for only basically a semester.
Less than that.
Right.
I have many stories.
So let's get into sort of a basic overview of how do you all see the housing situation of William and Mary? Is it in a good place? Is it in a bad place? What do you think that? Do you think the college should be doing more, or are we basically what it could be expected of them?
May I have?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a couple opinions of this, so I might be speaking for a little while. So let me know if I'm going for too long.
You would not be an outlier on this podcast.
First and foremost, there's a couple of different things that we have to remember with this, and especially I think the Ho House announcement is particularly of interest, and that is that building was only about 45 to 50% inhabitable as it was. Most of it was closed off due to asbestos, which is an opinion of mine. Asbestos is not bad, but that's the geology and me talking.
Wait, an opinion.
It's only bad when you're using construction, when you're actually building it. But anyway, half of that building was basically inhabitable with current building standards and codes. It already didn't have mold. It had terrible mold, but also some of the other complaints about that building were the key cards didn't work because they were individual magnetic strips. You couldn't put them near your phone, or it would demagnetize them. Unlike your actual William and Mary key card, there were a couple of problems with One Tribe Place as it were. Them closing it for rebuilding it inherently makes sense, but the problem is that there's a whole slew of issues with the William and Mary residence life that need to be addressed, or at least need to be talked about. The first one that comes to mind is what happened with Landrum. Landrum was supposed to be finished within a semester. For anyone who saw what was going on, that was never actually going to be the case. However, the big problem was that the school, instead of admitting that, continued to promise students that it was going to be finished at the time. I have my girlfriend that lives in Landrum now, and I have very close friends who were very excited about living in Landrum. And they were all sentenced out to Richmond Hall, which, by the way, was another one of William and Mary Housing Department's very dumb mistakes, in my opinion. They paid way too much building for what they got from it. The only good thing that they got was the building. But again, there are a lot of things to talk about with this. Landrum was supposed to be finished within a semester, and then they blamed it on a worker shortage, which was very, interestingly juxtaposed with immediately across the street. There was another, the Jewish community building by the Jewish Society here on campus was started and finished within like 2 weeks. And while Landrum was saying they had a worker shortage and everything like that, and I think it was, a funny juxtaposition, but they blamed it on lack of workers or lack of free contractors. And the problem was that William and Mary and Residence Life refused to actually admit to students that it was going to be a while. They continued to let students think that they were going to move in there during the summer. And then they even went so far as to announce that they would be able to move in 2 weeks into the semester, and that they would only be living in Richmond for a short amount of time, or wherever else they might have found themselves, whether it be Barrett or any of the other ones. And then they announced, hey, it's going to be postponed indefinitely. We hope it's going to be done by X time, but they didn't. And the real reason, I happen to know through some of my friends and sources that I promise are legitimate, is that
Ryan's got a whole slew of Illuminati connections.
So the problem is that when they redid Chandler, all they did was they redid the interior and basically just put new paint on the walls. Like more than that, like it looks better than that.
Yeah, you fix the air ducts, you do important maintenance.
They ripped out everything except for the walls in Landrum. The only thing original on that building is the brickwork. And so the problem was that they bit off more than they could chew, and then they just hemorrhaged money into building it. So that's, mistakes happen. Then there's also the situation of Lemon and Jefferson switching, which we'll get to, and I realize I'm getting a bit off topic here.
If this is the last you have to say on Landrum, maybe we tackle that first.
So the Landrum and the Ho House point both go into one big thing, which is that this college has a very big problem, and that is it attracts its students by name recognition and its history. Visiting this college, they lose a huge amount of their prospective students after their visitation because of how poor the facilities are. There's actual statistics to show that I've seen. And again, you'll have to take my word on that. I'll try to produce them and put them in whatever the description is for this podcast.
Link dump?
Yeah, link dump them. But the problem is that other colleges, University of South Carolina, Clemson, a bunch of other ones in South Carolina that I know of just because I toured them, and then a variety of ones in Virginia, are attracting students by their facilities. And William & Mary is horribly behind on that. I mean, our newest facility is now Landrum, but it was Lemon, which was, 2014, 2013, and all of these other, most of our freshman dorms don't have air conditioning. The two that do, both are infested with terrible amounts of mold, and I realize that some of this is a climactic problem. However, William & Mary does lose a significant amount of its students to the fact that our facilities are not up to date, and I think they're trying desperately to get them up to date. But in doing that, they're causing huge growing pains for every single person that is currently here.
Listeners, I think it's important that you all know that prior to recording this episode, Ryan said that he didn't have much to say about housing. I think that should just go on the record.
No, I do have a lot.
No, but Ryan, all of your points are extremely valid. I'm not trying to invalidate them. I just thought it was funny.
I'll let someone else talk, and then
you primed the pump
because I do have more stuff.
Yeah, no, and we will absolutely get to the Lemon Jefferson swap and other myriad issues with the housing system. But if I would like to sort of narrow the conversation, and we'll get back to Whole House as well. But I think the biggest point of conversation that we can have here is Landrum. How long it took them, how much they failed to admit that it was going to take them that long, and then what Ryan did not touch on, but what it now looks like on the inside compared to so many other facilities.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's stunning. But please, William, again, you were chomping at the bit here. Let's go to you.
So that's the thing about Landrum. The only issue I think that the only problem that the college had was a communication one. The reality of the situation is, and most students are not going to like this, these buildings do need to be renovated, and guess what? It's going to be tough luck for you for a little bit.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm not saying that renovation is something that doesn't happen. It desperately needs
that's also going to be very expensive.
Yeah.
It is, but that's life. These are things that have to be, and Ryan, your points are absolutely valid. These are things that have to be done if William & Mary is going to compete on the level with other universities.
Competing in the 21st century is very difficult for a university now.
Yes, and so William & Mary, if it wants to compete, it's got to get there with all the others, and that means that students are going to be displaced, which is the biggest complaint that I hear from students about these changes. It's like, oh, you're going to be moved and whatnot. It's just like so many things. Like, get over it, okay? You're going to be moved. That's life.
But you got to admit, William, it's kind of unfair when they don't tell you you're going to be displaced and then displace you.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying communication is the issue more so than anything else. The reason that Landrum was such a problem was not because it took a long time. It was because it was the impression that it wasn't going to take a while. I even argued that the interior of the Landrum being excessively nice is not necessarily a problem. I'm guessing the reason that they're doing it is because they plan to send tours through there.
That is
exactly. But by the way, when we were freshmen, do you remember where they sent us?
Monroe. I remember going through Monroe.
Okay, so Lemon and Hardy weren't finished when we were touring, so they sent us through. They sent us through the Bryan complex. And Blake, if your audio is cut out, don't worry. You're getting lots of on. You're getting on mine.
Yeah, I'm frozen. The image is frozen, which typically means it's going to jump.
No, that's completely okay. Why don't I just move my mic a little bit so you can speak into here?
All right.
But William, please continue.
Yeah, please. So William, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that they're making it so nice to basically send people through. Chances favor that renovations on other halls that are coming up. I assume that things like Old Dominion are slated to eventually be renovated. Also parts of the Bryan complex. Hopefully the Randolph complex as well. And then eventually maybe even Tolliver. I'm saying eventually. I'm not at this exact moment. I cannot tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt what the college's next plan is. I think what's concerning though about the college's building strategy is that they're doing a ton. They also did the Health and Wellness Center, which I think is excessively nice, especially given
very nice.
And I haven't been there yet. I mean, I really honestly have only been back at William & Mary for less than a week.
Yeah,
I haven't
excessively nice.
I haven't had the opportunity to go in. Do they do the regular medical stuff inside?
Yeah. So here's the deal.
Okay.
It's half a hospital and half an actual wellness center. Actually, I would say it's more a third a hospital. But the point is that that it is a lot of it is dedicated to health facilities. And they have some very, very, very nice. I mean, my dad working in the profession that he does, I've seen the interior of a lot of medical facilities. And it is, I mean, it's not like they could treat, an explosion patient there, but like it's got a pretty nice setup. So that's a lot of it. But then the other 2/3 of the building are just really nice glass paneled areas for like meditation and well, I mean, I've got a friend, our good friend and a longtime contributor, Jakob, is taking a health and wellness course there right now. And apparently they spent their first day with a de-stressing exercise that involved building Legos. And I'm a big fan of Lego building, but whether it has to be done in an all-glass room overlooking a river is it seems a little bit extraneous to me.
So that's what happened to the Lego Architecture Club.
and not to split hairs, that the building of that also caused huge issues for the streams that actually lead into the Crimdale. There are huge erosional issues, but one thing that's even a topic that maybe a bit tangential to this is that the wellness center, which they established in town, is this huge thing, this huge addition to campus. It's a 45-day wait to get in there.
Christ, yeah.
It was a 45-day wait.
Well, so I want to clarify.
Second day.
I want to clarify. It's a 45-day wait for mental health facilities. If you want to make a doctor's appointment, it tends to be about 3 or 4. But it's still a long wait for such a massive facility.
And so this brings me this. I think that the one thing that is important to remember from our listeners to acknowledge is that a lot of the housing situation and how students react to that, to me, is very interconnected with the type of student that goes here and, sort of my disagreements with how some of those people react or not live their lives. You can live your life however you want, but how they seem to handle administrative things with any form of understanding of what is actually going on. But that's a different topic.
So before we get too much into the student understanding of this, I want to give Joe a chance here because we were just on that topic of how nice some of the interiors of some of these new constructions are. And how much money is going into them while there is still a housing shortage at this college. Yeah. Joe, I really want to hear your take on what we've heard about the interior of Landrum, and I guess to an extent the wellness center, but definitely that Landrum interior.
Yeah, so I was actually in Landrum last night, and it is, as the kids are saying these days, bougie AF. If you haven't gone in, I highly recommend it just for the tourism. It is. It's very modern. Here's the problem I have with that. Evidently, this college has a housing crisis, and I'll tell you the way that this has affected me personally, more or less. And that is the language houses are what's the word I'm looking for?
Underpopulated?
No, worse than underpopulated. They're becoming irrelevant. Irrelevant. Yeah. I don't know how much this was the case for the German house.
Extremely.
When I was in the Russian house, I'm a Russian student. I'm a fairly good Russian student. To get into the Russian house,
I think fairly is a little bit of an understatement there, Joe.
I signed up. I went through an interview with the department, right? They presented it as if this was going to be some sort of language and cultural experience. Well, yeah,
basically
almost.
A cloistered community of people taking your courses.
That could be about learning, and that could be that could encourage that. And then I get there. And over 50% of the people living in that house were not Russian speakers or Russian studiers of Russian at all, because they use it as overflow housing. And like, on the one hand, if you've got the housing, right, I can understand the justification that it feels wasteful to just, give a whole bunch of people free singles when you do have a housing crisis. But at the same time, it kind of dilutes the purpose of a language house. So this is why I kind of feel it strikes me as odd that so much time and so much energy and so much money is being put into these admittedly lovely facilities in Landrum and in the Student Health Center, which I've also seen the interior of, and it's much the same, this hypermodern stuff. When it seems to me, why don't you just build it seems simple, but why don't you just build more housing and not glamp it up so much? You know what I mean?
So I think the main reason for that is, and I can point to evidence that I believe supports my argument here, is that they did essentially just, to quote you, build more housing. They did it in Richmond Hall, and absolutely no one wanted it. No one wants to live there, Everyone uses it. Overflow housing. It is absolutely the last place that people go, and has been for the 2 years that it's been available. And Blake, I'll let you go in a second here. The thing is that students at this school are incredibly picky. They also want to go to the very nice things. So they want to, and also I want to make sure that everyone knows, the last major widespread campus renovation for anything was like the 1970s and 80s, when they built Botetourt, and when they redid when they built the units, DuPont, and when they redid all of the main campus buildings, and Barrett and a couple of the other ones. 1970s through the early 90s, like 91, 92.
So you're absolutely right, Ryan, that in a sense, that you're right that we're not signing up for Richmond Hall. But can you really blame us?
Well, so this is the thing. Joe's point is that why don't they just build more housing? And the point is that the students at the school, and I will say this, and I'll go on the record and say this: the students at the school deserve a major in whining and complaining about the administration and their decisions. And we'll talk. And I think this is a good transition into the Jefferson Lemon switch.
I don't know that we can get there yet, though, because you're absolutely right. I think I want to use Jefferson Lemon as an example of how we overreact to certain things like this, but Richmond Hall was such a poor excuse for a solution.
You're absolutely right, but the thing is that students will complain and lambast the administration for offering new housing if it is not this hyper-modern, extremely pristine housing that Landrum is. Landrum was acceptable to people because Landrum, I'm sorry, is perfect. So what if it took so long to make it? It's absolutely gorgeous. Those facilities will last this college for another 30 to 40 years.
But we stand here as testament to the fact that the fact that they made it perfect is not making people happier about it. A whole bunch of people are still bitching about how long it took.
No, people are complaining about how long it took. By the way, 22:30 for that.
Don't worry, we've already got a lot of cursing.
Okay. Yes, it did take a while. The thing, though, is that Joe's point, and I think that this is not a point that Joe stands alone on, is, why don't they just build more housing? Well, because the problem is when they just build more housing, Richmond Hall, it is not accepted, and like I said, the student population lambasts the administration for making poor decisions. Old Dominion is another example. They built Old Dominion, and it's not nice. It wasn't nice when they built it. It was outdated when they built it, and they got so much flack for it because they have to have incredibly nice things in order to be happy, and that is why they can't just. My argument to you is that's why they can't just build new housing, because they will receive just as much flack for building average housing as they would for building no housing.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, the administration's goal should never be to reduce the amount of bitching that students are making for the exact reason that you just posited.
That is okay.
We're going to bitch about everything.
I completely agree, but that's not. But the point stands that that is why they don't do it.
But I think that the administration's responsibility is to serve its students' bare minimum requirements. I'm thinking about our freshman year when they had to turn all of Jefferson's common rooms into living areas because they literally admitted too many students to house. My concern is not that they built more housing and we still bitch, so when they renovate housing, they've got to make it pristine. No. My contention is that we're going to bitch every chance that we get. We're always going to bitch. It's always going to be a bitching society.
I completely agree with that long bleeped sentence that you just said.
But we absolutely need housing on this campus. So why aren't they fulfilling minimum requirements before their requirement to? Because there's this other explanation that we get the number of students who accept our admissions goes down after we go to. It's not like we're short on admitted students. It's not like our application numbers are so low that we're suffering.
No, I understand. And Blake, I agree with you. I think that they should be, to paraphrase a little bit, to extrapolate what I think you're saying, is to appeal to the lowest common denominator of what we need. I'm not disagreeing with that point. I think they need to provide the bare minimum, and that's all they should be concerned about. However, this administration has shown that there is a long history of them giving into, or at least trying to minimize, the whining of their students, and that seems to be their philosophy. I'm not trying to say that I support that argument.
So that's their
all
problem,
I'm trying to
and
say.
that's their problem and not ours. And if you guys want to jump in at any point, please do.
No, you guys are going great.
But
I demand more Griffin statues.
and you know what? Now I will. Let's go to the Lemon Jefferson controversy that sprang up.
Well, can I bring up
go ahead.
one statement about the arrangements at the language houses? Because, for instance, Joe, you brought up how the whole process of that. I didn't go through any of that process. I just said when I was coming back to William & Mary, I might be interested in doing a language house. And they said, cool. They threw me in the French house just immediately, which is fine, whatever. The French house is not fully occupied. And I think part of that issue is that, yes, the quality of the housing, especially at the language houses, is somewhat poor. And I think maybe if they're going to focus on things of that nature, maybe academic-esque things to make things like that really, truly prestigious. And I think maybe part of the issue with the complaining about Richmond is also the quality of the housing, but it's the sheer distance.
That's my issue.
But I would agree with you. I would absolutely agree with you if there were not for the fact that Ludwell is one of the first housing situations to go. Always. It is always the first to go.
But there's sufficient parking at Ludwell for you to be able to
There is more parking space at Richmond Hall in terms of parking spots registered by the college than there is at Ludwell.
Per capita?
For some, yes, because there's only one parking lot at Ludwell in the middle, and then that street parking is technically not considered it's not counted by the school.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's real parking, and that's the point. It's a one-way road with real parking.
I don't think it has anything to do with the parking.
I think it has to do with the fact
of the facilities.
Contribute a little bit is the fact that because Richmond Hall is Ludwell is considered a pretty nice place to live. Generally speaking, you'll be an upper level student in order to do it. More upper level students, I feel like per capita, have vehicles than.
I think it actually has.
I want to jump in right here and say, hi, I'm Jakob. You guys are talking a lot about Richmond. I have been talking to one of my friends who lived in Richmond for the last semester, and as it turns out, the school didn't do a good job retrofitting it to become a dorm. It was formerly a Motel 8.
Yeah, Days Inn.
Their walls are filled with water. There are pipes which are leaking and causing humidity problems. It's actually not a livable space right now.
Not only that,
to go back and
yes, but that my argument against the sheer distance, and so my point was going to be the reason I think that people don't live in Richmond is that. And actually, I think the reason people live in Ludwell is one, it's got a kitchen. You have a kitchen in each one of your door.
So it's not just a kitchen; it's
an
apartment, which I think attracts people way more than you don't have a hallway. You're living in a motel, and in order to get to your laundry, you have to walk through the rain. Like that.
I only made the Richmond point to address Joe's argument of the fact that they should only be focused on building new things, or not building new things, but on providing places for beds and the bare needs.
Yeah, but they didn't provide bare needs. The walls are full of water. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't pass normal living inspections.
My point, I think what you've said, Ryan, is correct so far. I just want to clarify that my point was not that the college should build barracks. It's that in my ideal world...
Well, they built the units, so they've already done that.
In my ideal world, the college would have, instead of spending money on granite countertops in Landrum, they might have put other types of countertops there and instead made...
Well, you got against granite, Joe.
I'm not a big fan of New Hampshire, to be honest with you. But... no, but you understand what I mean, joking aside.
Yes, I do.
But I also take your point that may also be an important thing to show toward people coming through, an important asset for that purpose.
I honestly
in the same way Tyler is, by the way.
With the building, so I'm glad you brought that up, because with the building of the Wellness Center, the renovation of Tyler, the renovation of Tucker that they did a couple years ago, the slated renovation of Washington, Blair doesn't really need to be renovated. And the eventual renovation of Ewell and McLaughlin, along with the construction of the Wellness Center and Landrum and the new renovation that they're doing on the Alumni House, I legitimately think that William & Mary is going to be going through a period of construction and renovation for the next 10 to 15 years that they will then keep for the next 40 to 50.
As they should be.
I think we're in that middle, but... the last time the school went through that was, started in 1977, ended in 1989, 1990. That, 13-year period. And then from 1995 to, 2011, 2012, everything was neglected. I think we're right now in the building phase, and we're about to go through the period of neglect again. And I think people are complaining about the neglect, the building phase.
No, I think people are complaining. I don't really see these complaints as being complaints about the building phase. I see them as meaningful complaints about how long the period of neglect lasted. Because
I completely agree. Yeah, sure, I agree with that.
Because one of my biggest issues is, again, that fundamental lack of housing that we have for our students. For instance, the college doesn't actually own Richmond Hall, nor do they own Hoe House, nor do they own the Tribe Place housing. In the early 2000s, they created a separate holding company for tax reasons. But as a result, the Board of Visitors doesn't have direct oversight over what happens to those housing situations. It's essentially a Band-Aid that we pay out of the nose in order to make happen. Because there's an entirely separate governing board that owns those as a holding company. Which is slightly better than if we were to rent them from a different property holder entirely, but not much. And as a result, we've basically put a patch solution onto this housing issue, and we're running out of land and places to build.
Well, see, that's why I think that you're going to find, to that point, and again, we can go back to the Ludwell or the Lemon conversation in a second. I think that you're going to find that land in Colonial Williamsburg and Merchant Square once Colonial Williamsburg sort of bites the dust. They're $8 billion in debt. They're not going to keep going. Not $8 billion. It's
going to say.
It's like 18 million. Sorry, $18 million in debt.
Why is Colonial Williamsburg failing?
Because
the Rockefeller endowment ran out,
and we're also in the historic triangle, and the other two of the three are state run, and they're for free. And Williamsburg is only for profit, and they paid their people way too much money to work there and everything like that, and so they're hugely in debt.
It's a weird situation, but
also people don't care anymore.
And perhaps the solution does lie there in terms of land, but if we're talking about now just construction rather than simply housing, I think the whole Tyler conversation is another thing to be had. Because Tyler is a ridiculously inefficiently built building.
I completely agree. There's so much wasted space
There's so much wasted space in that building. And as a result, I don't know if you guys have actually noticed this, but I've only noticed it because my classes have begun to get shunted there. But they're using Ren more often than they used to. I actually now have 2 of my 3 classes this semester in Ren. And it's because they got rid of Millington, which meant they had to shunt classes from Millington to Morton.
Okay, they needed to get rid of Millington. Right. I may lambast the college a little, but they needed
they needed to do that. But the point is that they've focused their money, which I think gets back to Joe's point of them spending so much money on renovating Landrum. They've focused their money on making their construction look better. So now they're short money. They're actually still looking for private funding to replace Millington. I do have that on authority. They aren't replacing Millington not because they don't have plans. They have plans. They just don't have money. And they're wasting their money on other projects.
Well, they also want to get rid of Morton as well, and that's a whole nother...
But they cannot do that until they replace Millington. They don't have the classroom facilities. Which gets back to my earlier chain of thought. They forced the classes from Millington into Morton. That forced government classes out of Morton into Tyler. And that forced government classes out of Tyler into Ren. Because they've lost space.
So we should cut the government department is what I'm hearing.
No. we desperately need to make it clear to the administration that they've got their trophy buildings now. They've got to stop. There needs to be a certain amount of functionalism that they put into, because granite countertops aside, money-wise, that kitchen is also massive. The basement kitchen in Landrum,
it's huge. It's like you could... Many different rooms, total roommates could cook down there and not bump into each other.
Which is fine, but I don't know a ton of people on this campus. There is a handful, a smattering, that cook for themselves when they live on campus.
Yes, it is a bit strange to me why they put such a nice kitchen down there.
But it's not a ton of people. And if you wanted to cut that kitchen in half, you could have put in 2 more rooms. It's not a lot, but I think it's indicative of the choices the college is making. Grandiose statements rather than functional room sizes. And so now let's pivot a little bit to where the administration does not deserve the flack that it is getting. And I think, to the point of people who are complaining, that maybe we ought to be focusing our energy a little bit more on specific issues. That is the Jefferson-Lemon switch.
Yes.
So for a little bit of background for our listeners who may not go here, Jefferson Hall has historically been one of the very few air-conditioned halls for freshmen.
One of two.
And Lemon Hall is one of the recent round of constructions and has been upperclassmen housing historically.
Lemon before Landrum was the nicest and newest
Lemon
housing.
and Hardy. And so Lemon is now going to be freshman housing next year, and Jefferson is going to become upperclassmen housing, largely because there is a need for better air conditioning systems for people who have allergies and other medical conditions, serious medical conditions that involve breathing and needing better air quality. And so they're swapping those, and there was a huge outrage among upperclassmen that they'd be living in Jefferson. How dare they? They already did their time. What are your all's take on how that outrage came about and whether or not it was justified?
For any alumni who are listening, you went here before 2014, you would know Lemon and Hardy Hall as Jamestown and Yorktown Hall. For anything like that.
Or for a brief number of years, Jamestown's 1 and 2.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the thing that's probably going to happen is that Jefferson, I imagine, is going to be shunted onto sophomores, which I feel like is going to be the reality of the situation. Yeah. I mean, like, very few upperclassmen choose to live in Barrett because they want to. Sorry, Jacob. But the reality of the situation is that it's just going to realign the way that things are working out. If it really is like a medical emergency for some of these students that they need to section off an entire dorm as freshman housing, I guess it kind of makes sense, but I think it seems a bit extreme because you're going to get a lot of freshmen in there, I have to imagine, who don't have this problem, who are going to just be in there because they're like, oh, medical condition, it's not really...
Absolutely. So there are some fair points, but I think there is such a aura of entitlement at this school that they deserve to live in Lemon, and after serving their time in Jefferson. Jefferson is not that bad of a hall, especially considering where we lived in Tolliver and in Barrett. It is just the same as Barrett. It is not a bad dorm, but also the thing that really bothers me is that everyone is complaining about this before anyone selected their houses. Not a single housing selection has gone out. And Blake, if you make fun of my hand motion anymore, I will remind everyone that you like to say the Lord's Prayer at inopportune times. Okay. Now,
mocking my religion on air. If this tape ever goes live and Ryan runs for an elected office, I want it noted that he mocked somebody's religious orientation.
That is not at all what I just did.
I want to know what qualifies as inopportune times.
No, okay. But anyway, well, this will probably be cut out. But the main thing is that people are complaining that they're being moved when none of them have been moved. No one was living in Lemon. No one was for sure living in Lemon Hall when this announcement was made. No one had to change their plans. No, maybe they were thinking about it, but they announced it before the semester even began. They have 2 months to think about where they're going to live and make those plans. And yeah, are some people going to get shunted because now Hoe House is gone? And also the main reason people like Hoe House is not because it has like bigger beds or anything. It's because it has the most singles. Yeah. And people on this campus need to learn that they do not deserve a single if they live on campus. I understand I might be a bit hypocritical, living in an off-campus house, but next year I fully expect to have a roommate in Ludwell, and I'm fine with that. The problem...
He's walking over, hanging on.
Why don't you describe, though, what Ludwell is before you say that? Because it's not a roommate situation that's analogous to, say, living in a double.
No, it is a double. I'm going to live in a triple, which means that there will be one person who has a single, and then there will be one double room that is exactly like every dorm room here on campus.
And Ryan, which one are you going to be living in?
I'll probably be living in that double. Even if I'm not,
for all of you who couldn't see that, Jacob just essentially, if the living situation that he once works out, may or may not have just secured himself a single. But
I have no idea what he's.
Oh no, okay, never mind. I take it all back.
No, but anyway, you're right. I think that the administration is getting a lot of flack for this. However, I also am sympathetic to the students on this one that they think that they need to sanction off an entire building for people with medical needs even that are legitimate, for freshmen who will just do the exact same thing that I did to get an AC unit, which is say, "Hi, Dr. Blank, I had asthma when I was 2 years old and have not had any symptoms since. Can I have an AC unit?" And that is exactly what is going to happen. And so, you know what? I think that's where you say to the students, suck it up.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ryan on the issue of entitlement at this university. Sometimes you just have to tell them, just like, get over it. It's just like, okay, whatever. There is like a certain hierarchy of dorms, though, that I feel like is just commonplace at universities. I don't think it's indicative to William & Mary. It's kind of expected. As a freshman, you get the cruddiest housing. As a senior, you get the nicest. It's just kind of part of the college experience to a certain extent. But that being said, I don't know, just it really is the impression of that, because not Ludwell. What were we talking about?
Jefferson,
Jefferson,
Lemon. There we go.
There are a lot of L dorms.
Yes, like what were we talking about? It also has its own suite setups, I believe, which is typically not something you have as a freshman, as far as I'm aware. And I don't know.
The fourth floor is all triples.
Yeah, so I don't know. And I also think singles are kind of silly,
Lemon also
to
has
be honest.
singles. I don't know how they're going to deal with that, but there are singles in Lemon.
I mean, there were singles in Tolliver that were used.
Yeah.
There were 3 on the 3rd floor.
That was different, though, because those were singles because they had to be. Their roof sloped in and they were tiny.
That's fair.
The Lemon singles are pretty nice.
Yeah, I personally am of the opinion that singles, just as like an idea, are kind of silly. Just suck it up and live with another person. Surely you can find one human being that you're decently okay with living with.
Joseph?
Joe and I got along freshman year.
Okay, yes, but I will say that I'm going to take the administration side on this one, and that the fact that people are legitimately complaining about having to live in Jefferson seriously, underpins the universities and the student body's idea that the university needs to be more responsible for people's physical and mental health, and then they get on this administration when they try to make a decision for the students' either mental or physical health. And I think it's incredibly hypocritical, and I really, really believe that everyone in this school deserves a major in whining about the administration, no matter what the decision.
Well, I guarantee you the people who are complaining did not hear the part about the medical reason. They just heard Lemon shutting down. And then that was it. The brain was off after that point.
Ryan, I think that anybody who's listening to this will be able to backtrack the whole 5 minutes and remember that I was taking the administration side on this too. That I
wasn't arguing against you.
Oh, okay.
I'm just speaking into a microphone.
It took a really rather combative tone, but I'll take it.
I'm talking about the William & Mary administration, who, by the way, kicked me out of my damn housing my sophomore year for something that I did not deserve to be kicked out of my house for. By the way, the frat houses, complete waste of space. But also, I don't like the William & Mary administration. I think they're incredibly stupid. I'm sorry. I think that they don't know how to handle money, and I also think they don't know how to, govern their students.
Good. So as long as we're unified...
Wow, my audio is just blue.
As long as we're unified on the stance that that there definitely needs to be a more responsible take on how they're divvying out money. So we're running towards the end of the episode.
I was going to say we need to finish up.
Yeah.
My computer is literally flashing red on the battery, so we need to.
Yeah. We're going to polish this off, but so I'm going to pose you all the interesting question that we'll answer right after I do our obligatory announcements. They've already announced Hoe House is going to be the next stage of renovations. We'll see how that happens. How drastic those renovations are. And we all know that there are rumors floating around about which academic building.
Washington is officially next.
Okay, gets the axe next. Okay, so that's all good to know. But Washington, I'm gonna leave out for the purposes of the question what you all think should be next, and if Washington's your answer, that's fine. But housing or building on this campus, what do you think next desperately needs a makeover? And how would you do it? Would you pref more rooms? Would you pref better? I don't know, kitchens, better common areas. What would be your ideal renovation for this building?
Okay, I'll go first, so I shut up first.
But before we get into that question, just a reminder that any opinions expressed on this podcast are definitely definitely not the opinions of the college, but are instead only the opinions of those who express them. Also,
opinion of the college, we're stupid.
Yeah. But also, if you enjoy listening to podcasts or enjoyed listening to this one, we encourage you to take a look at the other podcasts on the podcasting network at William & Mary, which you can find on any any platform that you listen to podcasts by simply typing in podcasting at W&M. Now, Ryan, you requested to start off first. What building needs to get a makeover, and how would you do it?
All right, so I'll answer one for housing and one for building. Housing, I think the one that desperately needs it most is Yates. I think the entire place is filled with mold, including underneath the tile and in the AC unit, which has been working since the 1980s. How I would renovate it would be I would do basically a deep scrub of the entire place. I would redo the tiling on the floor, not the walls, and then I would install a new air conditioning unit. That would be how I would do it. And Morton's a cop-out for the academic building, so I'm not going to say that. And this might be a bit biased or unsurprising, but I am going to say McLaughlin, not because of it being geology, but because they have an HVAC system on the 4th floor, which I don't go to. That's a different department, which constantly leaks as it flooded the building now 4 times in the last 2 months. So actually, you know how the administration's building it? This will piss you off. Instead of fixing the HVAC system, they're waterproofing the 4th floor. That is actually happening right now. What they did is they waxed the entire thing so that water can't leak down to the 3rd floor.
Good God, man.
So how I would renovate it? How I would renovate it is, one, I would probably get rid of the mold that's there. I would redo the HVAC system, and also there's a very large burgeoning computer science major at this department at this college that is not getting enough love. I would give them more room, more servers, more space to work, and I would in the geology department I would redo the tables because they're all the old
I know, yeah.
You know the tables you had in like high school chemistry that were like it was black top. Like,
they're black
table.
If you rub them hard enough, it comes off.
Yeah, and like it all bubbles up. It's like writing on like plywood. Yeah, so I would redo the furniture, things like that.
All right, Wilhelm.
Okay, so for me, I am a bit of the snobbish bitch that Ryan doesn't like, and so I really like how buildings look more so than I care about necessarily practicality, especially when it comes to academic buildings.
Good God, William.
So like I really hate buildings that look like they're built from the 1960s, where they're just giant rectangles. That really pisses me off. So
I agree.
So you hate Botetourt.
I hate Botetourt. I don't like Yates. I don't like Morton, just because they all look the same. I used to not like Andrews, but they're currently doing something with Andrews, so we'll see what happens.
It's just PBK.
Feck.
I completely forgot about that. That's a whole different rant, but that is so dumb. So dumb that they're doing that. It's a beautiful hall, and they're like, the theater department wants more stuff. Like, screw off.
So that is a different issue. I would think the one residence area that I really would improve is the language housing. I think if it were much nicer, you would have more people genuinely interested in using the language housing, which would probably increase the number of people who use it for its intended purpose. Which I genuinely admit, in sophomore year, I was really, prior to sophomore year, from freshman year, I really was interested in living in a language house, the French house specifically, in order to improve my French. I'm glad I didn't, because it seems that it probably would not have happened and it would have been a housing situation. But that would be the one that I would improve, because that one is dual academic and residential purpose.
So I have a glib answer and a real answer. The glib answer is the two most important renovations that need done is, firstly, ISC needs better directional signs. I think that's a crisis. Secondly, I think Landrum needs to be renovated again to remove some of that nice stuff because it's a little bit overkill. But no, realistically, I have exactly William's answer. I think I've been lucky that I haven't really had to fight with the housing system. But I think the fact that there is such competition, I think there's a great opportunity to take advantage of that for those academic purposes by bringing the language houses back to, to be something that people want to live in actively. And I'm sort of philosophically opposed to that being entirely material, but if that's what works, then I think that's a much better use of assets, given that this is a college which attracts people primarily based on academics.
Jacob, did you approach because you want to contribute an opinion?
No, I wanted to see how long you guys have been talking for, and it's quite a bit.
Yeah. All right, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up.
One final take before we go. They need to rework the contracts for students who are going abroad in the fall semester because it's a pain in the ass. Okay, that's it.
All right. Thank you, William. All that being said, thank you so much for listening, and have a good day.